Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here's what I'm going to be showing you guys to do today is how to take your image that you drew of your name and how to convert that into an image that you're going to be using in Illustrator. So, first thing you want to do is just, oops, I'm in Photoshop. That's not the first thing you want to do. The first thing you want to do is open Illustrator, and we're going to go ahead and just make a new file, and we're going to do a print one because we're going to assume that this would be a printed file someday. So I will just go to File, New, and change this to print, and don't worry about any of these settings. We'll just go ahead and click OK. Now from here, you'll notice it's portrait. You're probably going to want to do landscape, so I'm just going to go ahead and just take the artboard tool out and just kind of put it in a position of where, you know, about the size of your name, how you drew it. So I'm just kind of going to guesstimate that. That's fine. So that's where I'm going to put my name. Now I just got to take my file, which is right over here, and I'm just going to drag it in and go full screen here. Okay, so there we are, and there it is. Now I want to fit it into my artboard. If I want to, I could make my artboard bigger if I really wanted to have higher resolution and just fit it into this. However you want to do it is fine. I basically just need the name part to be in the artboard. I don't really need to worry about the rest of the paper. So just kind of play around with that. And I'm using Shift to make sure I do not mess with the proportions. So there we go. And I'm just going to use the arrow keys now. And Shift arrow key will kind of move it faster. And just to get that right in the center of my artboard, which I can always change later. Not a big deal. I'm happy with that. I'm now going to lock this layer. And I'll go ahead and rename it, just to keep things simple. And that's just going to be the scan. So if you took a photo and you got your name, you scanned it, essentially. There it is. I noticed that it's a little bit curved here at the top, and that may provide some problems later on. I don't want you to worry too much about the layout of this. You're going to be doing some things a little bit differently, but if you wanted to, you could rotate the image a little bit if it's not quite straight. And I think that you can even skew it if you use the direct selection tool. You can. No, you can't. Let's try that again. Because it's an image. No, it will not let me. I thought maybe I could skew it, but it won't let you. So you can. The only thing you can do is rotate it and resize it. So let's just be happy with that. I lock it. Now I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to call this one Guidelines. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my rulers out. To move around like this, by the way, it's a space bar and a click. Very simple. Except for my keyboard is not working right. But you go to View, Rulers, Show Rulers, or just do a Control-R, and you'll have your rulers up here. And that's going to allow you to pull down your guidelines. So I'm going to put a guideline here at the top. You'll notice that it doesn't match my drawing, and that's okay. I'm going to pull another one here for the bottom. And I'm going to pull in a few for the sides, that edge right there. Let's get this edge here, and maybe right there. I can add some more later if I need to. But what I want to do now is I want to lock this layer, because otherwise every time you move stuff around, you'll accidentally touch the guidelines and they'll move around. So let me make now a third layer, and I'm going to call this my drawing, because that's where I'm going to actually do the drawing. So I'm going to get the pen tool out, and the very first thing I'll do is just focus on one letter at a time. Let me just click. I'll click right on the guide, even if it's not exactly where I put the on the drawing. And I'm going to actually hold down Shift here to get a nice 45-degree angle right on the guideline. And if I don't hold down Shift, I can do any angle I want, but I really want that 45-degree angle. So I'm going to just, unfortunately, it doesn't hit that guideline perfectly, but I'm going to just do my best. And now I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to click on this on the guideline, even though, again, it's not exactly where it should be. I'm going to hold down Shift right here. And so I get my 45-degree angle once again. And I'm going to hold down Shift again here. So once again, I get my 45-degree angle. And it's not looking like the image underneath that you see, but it's close. Let me get my opacity layer out, transparency, I'm sorry, and just pull that down so I can see through. And then again, I want 45 degrees. It would be really nice to go directly under this line right there. So let me go to my guideline layer, unlock it, get the move tool out here, pull out that so it's just on that anchor, and lock it again and go back to my drawing. And because unfortunately I clicked off and now I'm back on, I have to actually select my path again. So I click on it. Now it's selected. And then I got to go back with my pen tool. Click on the point that I was just at, the last anchor, and now I'm ready to move on. I'm holding down Shift because once again I want to have that 45 degrees, and I'm going to try to hit that line right there. Okay. Now I want to go directly above this one for this one to keep everything proportional. And again, I'm holding down Shift to keep it 45 degrees. Hold down Shift again. I want this one to be directly above this guideline. So if I go back to my guidelines, pull this one down, and go back to my drawing layer, lock the guidelines, and I have to reselect the anchor. Hold down Shift to get on this one. Oh, I'm going too far over. Let's try that one more time. Okay, I want to get as close to that guideline as possible. Now I want to go straight up, so again, I'm just going to hold down Shift so that my line goes straight. Let's go a little higher, and let's reconnect. Okay, now you're going to see some pretty major problems with this. Let me turn off all this other stuff. And I'm going to go ahead and fill this in with some color just so I can kind of play with it a little bit. Let's go with a nice neon bluish color. Pull my opacity back up to 100. I don't really need to see my drawing anymore. It was useful at the beginning, but now I can kind of move past it. Now, my big problem is I have this big fat line and I have these two thinner lines here. So I want to just take this, and I'm using the direct select tool here. And what I'm doing is I'm dragging along here, and it's going to get me both of these 2 points. Now I'm using the arrow keys. I'm just going to push these in. And let's look at a couple other things here. Now, this one appears to be just a little bit higher than the one next to it. So let me just use the arrow key down with this dot selected. No, I was wrong. It's perfect. So I'll leave that alone. Here we got some really funky stuff happening. What I really would like to have happen is that this dot would be the same height as this dot, and yet it is not. But I also want this to line up with that. So let me get my guidelines on here. And I gotta kind of rethink how I'm doing this. I don't think I'm gonna be able to do all those things I just mentioned. But first, let me just try this. I'll select these two. And what's gonna happen is as I move this up so that it's now parallel, let me pull this guideline out with that dot. I like that because now it's got some symmetry, but the problem is now I have this really funky thing going on here. So I'm gonna have to take these two and just kind of move them around so that they're somewhere in the center. Am I directly above right here? It does not look like it, so I better take this dot, move it around, and it's getting better. It's starting to come along pretty nicely. Let me turn my guidelines off. I accidentally put a guideline on the wrong layer, so I'll just get rid of that one. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of cool. Maybe I also, instead of having this angle right here, maybe I want to flatten it out. So I know that in my drawing, it's at an angle. That line right there. But maybe it would look better, and you can change your mind as you do stuff. That's okay. If we were to just flatten it out. So let me just take this point, and I do want to make sure I'm using my guideline here because I want it to be straight across from this one. So let me just pull it up and select this one, push it that way, and if I need to move these two around, I can. Let's take a look at that. So I'm trying to make a J here. I kind of like that. It's not bad. So maybe these need to be a little bit to the side to get me that symmetry that I'm looking for. But it looks pretty clean. Let me pull this point up a little bit and just stretch everything down. Make that a little bit thinner. And you'll notice I'm just selecting 2 dots at a time. That's how I'm able to make those changes so easily, just using the arrow keys. Alright, so now for my next one, I'm going to pretend like this is actually curved because I want to give you guys some, well, no. I'm going to do a different video on that, but let's go ahead and just move on to the next one. So I turned these 2 layers on. I got my guidelines. I don't really need to do too much with them except for let me just make sure that I am using them for the top and bottom. Now I'm going to hold down Shift because I want 45 degrees. And then I'm going to hold down Shift again because I want 45 degrees. And it's not quite hitting, and that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and just not worry about that right now. I'm going to click back up here. And again, didn't quite hit. Maybe I need to go a little further over. And back to here. So now what I'm going to do is just take my points and just kind of move them around so that, you know, this one I really want it to be parallel to that, so I would want to pull a guideline out. Right now it's just a little too high. I can actually get rid of the guideline, just Control Z it. I saw it, it helped me. I don't need it anymore. But if you want to keep it there, just go down to your guidelines layer and do it. I wanted this one to be directly above that one, so let me just make sure if that's happening. And it's not quite, so let me just pull this one over just a couple of dots. So there we go. That's about what I want. Now I need to cut out a section in the middle. Then don't just do white in the middle. That's not how you're supposed to do it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate, holding down Alt. I'm going to resize it, and I'm going to hold down Shift to keep it proportional. Now holding down Alt. Oh, sorry. I gotta make a copy first. Hold down Alt to make a copy just by moving it. And now hold down Shift and Alt to not only keep it proportional, but also to do it from the center. Now I did move it up a little bit, so I have to kind of just arrow key it back to the center. And that should be about right. And now what I'm going to do is select this and this by holding down Shift and go to my View Pathfinders. Sorry, Window Pathfinder. And I want to just choose, you can play around with some of these, they're kind of fun, but the one I want to use right now is, well, I wish it would show you, but it's supposed to say subtract the top from the bottom, so it cuts it out. Boom. And there we go. So now I got my O done, and it's a little fatter than the J, so if I wanted to try to play with these dots, I gotta use the direct select tool, but let's just take this dot and move it up. Holding down Shift will keep it in a straight line, and that's good because you don't want it to go left or right. Oops. Let me select this dot and come on. Sometimes the direct select tool is a little bit tricky to work with. I'm just going to double click, hold down Shift. There we go. Double click, hold down Shift. See, I accidentally have two selected, so I have to kind of deselect it, then select it again. Double click. Now, now I hold down Shift. Once it actually starts moving, otherwise you might have some problems. And it looks like this one got messed up earlier. I didn't even notice. I want it directly underneath there. If I wanted to, I could use the guidelines to double check. But basically, you'll have to play around with it. You really should be taking some time to play around with these to make them just really, really nice, because this is something that you don't want to rush through. You have plenty of time to do this assignment, and you want it to look clean as possible. So I got my O, my J, and you know, there's little effects I'm going to want to add to these, like those little, let me turn this off. You see how I kind of have like these shadows and these lines on them, so I'm going to add that kind of stuff later on. Not going to make you look at that today, but go ahead and just start tracing it, and remember, you can make changes if you'd like. This is up to you. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Until tomorrow.